But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
Okay, we're starting with the Daily Trust newspaper. The major story here says Nigerians spend 67.7% of monthly income on utilities. We have a writer that says it's second highest among 51 nations. This is from a British firm study. We spend our salaries on basics, workers say. Most Nigerians live on goodwill. That's another writer there. Then some local analysts say the report is faulty. And on the top left of the paper, we have the story that says FG directs telcos to bar calls on unlinked lines. And then we have Kaduna train attackers were teenagers, survival. On the bottom strip of the paper, we have bandits in military uniform killed Zamfara commissioner's son, 3 others. Then we have some stories on the right-hand side. The one says, hours after sack, Abuja Imam Nuru Khalid gets new mosque. Groom's best man steals wedding gifts in Kano. 2023, PDP zoning committee decides today as aspirants, stakeholders strategize. So, Ayuba, Nigerians spend 67.7% of monthly income on utilities.
Well, I mean, when I saw that story, I felt that perhaps the percentage should be more than
Maybe it should be more than that,
perhaps
actually.
That's why the report, the analysts or the experts, are saying that, they are disagreeing and faulting that report. If you look at a lot of Nigerians, in fact, I may say I do not have, the data to back this up, but I feel like more Nigerians actually spend, virtually 100% of their income, and even, looking for more to augment, whatever income that they have, because if you look at the expenses, they are on the rise daily, and the income is not.
It's not on the rise. It's not on the rise as the prices of goods and services are.
Another person, one of the writers there says that a lot of Nigerians live on goodwill, which I believe strongly, and it's part of the reasons now, part of the problems that we're dealing with, issues of corruption. If you look at, if you go to, if you want to, really assess this, just try to visit a certain place and try to have a facade that look like, oh, you are rich and you're wealthy. And you see the drama that plays.
Yes, the drama that plays. Everybody feels that you have come to.
Everyone wants to attend to you. Everyone wants to pay attention to whatever
and not
you're
because
saying.
they want,
not because of anything.
Yes, but because they want to get something from you.
A tip or something like that. And that's because in most cases, if you check, whatever they earn as salary cannot even sustain them, cannot even take them home at the end of the day. So I believe that the percentage is probably.
Ayuba, you see, that's why the workers say we spend our salaries on basics. These utilities are the basic things of life, right? Power, gas, electricity, that's power, water. So you need all of these things. So there's absolutely no way you will not spend on them. So,
Very, very correct.
Yes,
Well, I
correct.
also saw another story, about the Sheikh Nuru Khalid, the digital imam, as he is fondly,
called,
referred to. That, well, he has gotten another mosque. And when I saw his story, initially about the suspension and his disengagement, I felt, well, it's probably too late, because if you check it, he has gathered a lot of followership online, on social media.
He has indeed.
Especially on Facebook. And that cut across both Muslims and Christians. And I'm wondering, a sheikh is having such an influence, not only on Muslims, but on Christians. There must be something
but doesn't that tell you something? Is it possible that just tells you that he may just be speaking the minds of a lot of people. If not, why are so many people following him right now? And I've seen the support, like you said, cuts across faith. It's not basically Muslims that are supporting him. Christians are also behind him, and other religions. I know followers of other religions will also be behind him.
And
But
it looks like Nigerians are united on one thing, which is the issue of welfare that that concerns everyone. It doesn't know religion.
welfare and
after all.
security right now. Welfare and security.
So it doesn't know the difference.
But I'm sure the Sheikh has been with that mosque for over 15 years. I wonder what it would be like for him to be moving away from that mosque to start in a fresh place.
Well, if you look at it emotionally, it's gonna have a lot of impact.
Yes.
And all of that. But hey, I mean, it's the world we're living, isn't it? We have to all move on somehow. Well, let's take a look at other papers today on the dailies. Now, taking a look at the Blueprint newspaper. It has the lead story that says, train attack, the humanity in us slowly being eroded. That's according to JNI. And then you have the writers that says, it blames serial attacks on security personnel's lack of coordination, synergy. And then we are fighting unconventional warfare. That's according to the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed. He says operatives need support, encouragement. And then Imam Khalid's sermon worse than kidnapping. That's according to Sheikh Gumi. Okay, that's another perspective to the whole story. You will find the details of that on page 6. Maybe you would find out when you pick a copy of the Blueprint newspaper, you get to hear from Sheikh Gumi how Imam Khalid's sermon is worse than kidnapping. Also, you would take a look at other 60 non-existent Kaduna train passengers' phone numbers raise concerns. You'd also see 2023 autumn-led PDP zoning committee meets today. And then you'd have also below the pictorial, investors ignore Kaduna, Imo, others as foreign investment drops.
Ayuba, this lead story on the Blueprint, the humanity in us slowly being eroded. Isn't that scary, as it were?
Well, that's pretty what it looks like.
That's what it looks
right
like
now, because
with the killings on a daily basis.
Somehow the psyche of Nigerians is adapting to the killings. Just yesterday I also saw another similar story, a body that was exhumed and the head cut off by some.
But lately we've been having a lot of those kind of stories. There's an increase in ritual killings and all of that. I wonder why.
So the meaning of life and the humanity in people, I don't know.
Life is losing its meaning in Nigeria. That is what it looks like, because people get killed almost on a daily basis in Nigeria today. You hardly open the pages of newspapers without saying 1 killed, 2 killed, 3 killed. So I mean, I think it's true. Our humanity is being eroded.
All right, now let's take a look at News Direct. On News Direct's bar on outgoing calls, telcos vow to implement FG's directive. And that's the lead story on the Nigerian News Direct. And now we'll be taking a look at, again, the stories on the front pages of our newspapers. This time with the newspaper reviewer, we have Editor-in-Chief Deadline Nigeria, Nasiru Lawal, to give us perspectives on some of the stories on the front page of our newspapers this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you too.
Nasiru, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's good to see you here.
Yeah, good to be here.
All right.
Okay. Nasiru, we're starting with the Daily Trust newspapers. The major story says Nigerians spend 67.7% of monthly income on utilities. The first writer says it's the second highest among 51 nations. This is from a British firm study, by the way. Then we have this story under it. Bandits in military uniform killed Zamfara Commissioner Sam, 3 others. And then another major story here. FG directs telcos to bar calls on unlinked lines. Kaduna train attackers were teenagers, survivor says.
All right, now let's take a look at other papers. The Blueprint newspaper leads with the story on the train attack. It says, the humanity in us is slowly being eroded, and that's according to JNI. It has the writers that says blames serial attacks on security personnel's lack of coordination and synergy. We are fighting unconventional warfare, says Lai Mohammed. Then it says operatives need support and encouragement. Imam Khalid's sermon worse than kidnapping, and that's according to Sheikh Gumi. You have 60 non-existent Kaduna train passengers' phone numbers raise concern. You have also investors ignore Kaduna, Imo, others as foreign investment drops. That's that for the Blueprint newspaper. On News Direct, the lead story says bar on outgoing calls. Telcos vow to implement FG's directive. Government's action premature. NATCOM's president Ogubanjo. Also, we have other stories there that says 2 million people will start receiving 20 billion naira monthly from June, and that's according to the federal government. Is that correct? 2 million people will start receiving 20 billion naira monthly.
Yeah,
from
what the
June.
story, what
Is
the
that-
story is saying
is
is
that-
it's not that each of them will get that 20 billion. It's going to be shared amongst those people. That's what it means.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it in a better perspective
Yeah.
then. Transcorp Hotels PLC gross profit increases by 143%. You also have Nigeria's electricity generation hits 4,302 megawatts. Other stories there below the pictorial: 8-month-old child falls, dies as pastor leads 2 women to assault wife. One of those stories. Federal government grants 3-year tax relief to 33 companies and bars 10 firms. CPPE seeks full activation of PIA power sector reforms. And then you have mock UTME diesel price. Others force JAM to increase service charge. And then, of course, on the Leadership newspaper, it leads with a story that says SIM-NIN linkage. After many deadlines, 73 million unlinked subscribers barred from making calls. You'd have the writers say Nigeria has 303.6 million connected lines, 198 million active lines, 125 million linked lines, and then you have experts fear revenue losses in telecom sector. Rising insecurity, signs the SIM-NIN linkage exercise has failed. And then you'd have also at the top there below the nameplate, Southern PDP governors reject Northern presidential aspirants, take battle to terrorist enclave, JNI tells federal government. Anti-government sermon, Apple Mosque sacks Imam Khalid. You also see Soludo joins prayer to mark end of sit-at home in Anambra. Then Zamfara bandits kill retired DIG Safe's son, and 3 others. That's that for the story. The stories on the front pages, the front page of our newspaper this morning. And now we will be taking perspectives on some of these stories, beginning with the Daily Trust newspaper. We have a friend of the house we have with us in the studio to give us, these perspectives, and he is the editor-in-chief, Deadline Nigeria, Nasiru Lawal, and to give us perspectives. Thank you again for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Well, let's get your own reaction on the lead story on Daily Trust newspaper. It's saying 67% of Nigerians spend their income on utilities. I'm wondering what do you think?
Well, actually, the fact that it's coming from a British firm,
Study.
I don't know to what extent, that aligned with what we have from our own local agencies like the NBS and what have you. But actually, I would want to look at it from the fact that how many Nigerians actually have something that you can consider an income. you know. If you are talking about salaries, the minimum wage is around 30,000, and how many states have been able to actually meet up with things like that? Even though going through the story, I saw somebody who is earning around 350,000 naira saying that it's barely enough for him to take care of his utilities. Honestly, I think reading through the story, somebody from that's a low-income earner will wonder what his own fate will be if somebody earning 350,000 is coming up with things like this. Then it has to be tough for people like those who are earning very insignificant amount of income.
Okay, so do you believe that the percentages could be higher?
Yeah, it could be higher because virtually we have what you call, or what I will call mini governments in Nigeria. You know, individuals are now becoming governments on by themselves because virtually everything that you need to do, you have to do it yourself. You know, you have to take care of your own security. If it is water that you want, you will have to sink your own borehole. You know, electricity is hardly ever there. You have to spend lots of money to be able to do that. If you are talking about like part of the utilities, how many Nigerians can actually be able to afford gas? You know, so you tend to see the impact on the environment because people will now resort to you know, felling trees and doing all the things that the government does not actually want, just to be able to continue to keep body and soul together.
There's this story here on the Daily Trust. 2023, PDP zoning committee decides today as aspirants, stakeholders strategize. You see, there's a lot of concern about the zoning issue in the PDP. As a matter of fact, it has been to zone or not to zone, with one group pushing for the zoning, another group pushing. Some people are worried that this thing is capable of derailing the party ahead of the elections.
Yeah, actually, I also share that thinking because even today, there is a story saying southern governors are rejecting all the aspirants from the northern part of the country. What that says is probably they're trying to preempt the report that the autumn committee will be presenting today. But honestly, I think the PDP did not do its homework very well. I don't think they should have allowed it to reach this extent when you have so many people indicating interest already. That is something that they should have actually done away with before now, because I see it will be very difficult for them to stop people like those who have already bought the forms. Like, how do you stop Atiku from continuing with his aspiration? How do you stop Tambuwal, Saraki, and all the rest? So if they don't do what is right, honestly, the thinking that some people are having that the PDP may stage a comeback in 2023, it may be very difficult.
All right. Now, I want us to look at, other issues that has to do with security now this time. The federal government has directed telcos to bar calls on unlinked lines. And a lot of people are saying, well, to what effect will this be? This is happening in the wake of the recent attack on the, Abuja-Kaduna train. This exercise was, way back in 2021. So, could the train attack be the reason why, we are seeing this move all of a sudden? And to what extent will it, have an impact?
Actually, even before the train attack, the date has always been there that March 31st is going to be the deadline for the SIM, the NIN SIM linkage. But then, so many people want to ask, because the government has actually been doing things like this. They have been monitoring phone calls. They have been doing so many things. But then, like, sometimes when you say something about the government of the day, you may do that even in the WhatsApp group, and before you know it, they will come after you.
I mean, if you take what the governor of Kaduna State was saying the other time at the villa when he was briefing State House correspondent, he said that they have the phone numbers of these bandits, they know their locations, they listen to their conversations, and all of that. So when you hear things like that, you wonder, and yet we're still dealing with what we are dealing with right now.
Well, my understanding is, what this tends to achieve, rather, or what they want to achieve with it, is to be able to trace, people, those owning the phones. That if a call is coming from a particular number, you should be able to know where that person is residing, from where he is making the call and things like this, like that. If you are able to do that, then you will be able to minimize some of the things that they may be able to do. But just like the governor said, if they have not been able to stop all these attacks, despite the fact that they have access to all this.
It doesn't actually look like it's the problem right now.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't look like that's the problem, because the governor was actually saying that to buttress the fact that, probably is the approach that, that we are not,
don't also forget,
right.
this is a security issue. Probably the security agencies also have their own explanations. Probably they also have their own reasons for not going after this.
But Nasir, a lot of people are saying that this thing started in 2020.
Yes.
So between that time and now, a lot of people are thinking that we should have been able to curb insecurity to an extent with the number of SIMs that have been linked.
Yeah.
So why hasn't that happened?
But you can see they are also talking about the fact that close to 70 million phone calls may be affected by this abrupt ending of the whole thing.
Okay, but somehow, when they stopped, when there was no telecoms services in some states, including Zamfara and all of that, the bandits were able to use telecommunication service from Niger to communicate, come together and carry out attacks. So how far will this, our own linkage of SIM, work if these people are still able to go to Niger, get their service and come together and work?
Well, because of the location, most of the communities around Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, actually you may be able to get services from Niger Republic. But what they're actually doing, some of them, they communicate from what the security agencies are saying, that they communicate via WhatsApp, because you can do WhatsApp with number from, wherever you want to do. But just like you said, honestly, it wouldn't give us confidence that this thing will end if, despite all the things that is out there, the security agencies have not been able to stop little things from taking place.
Now, to what extent, the use of human shield is a problem in this fight against insecurity? Because it looks like we have a situation where the bandits, and the criminals, they literally cohabit with the people. They live with the people in the same communities, in the same villages, and it doesn't look like the people in those villages are willing to provide the needed information, for security agencies to go after, maybe because of fear, or maybe because in some way they believe in the cause, of these bandits, and so on. So, and then government appears to be in a tight corner, whereby it feels like if it, rain heavy fire, there could be collateral damage and all of that. Could that be, why we're seeing what we're seeing?
Actually, the criminals are taking advantages of things like that, because this is not like a normal war where you have the battlefront, the criminals on one side and then the government security agencies on the other. No, they cohabit with the people, like you said, and the problem is actually not the people believing in what all these criminals are doing. The problem has to do with the fact that the government has not been able to protect the people. You may give information today, and then before you know it, tomorrow they are on your neck. And then there will be nobody to protect you. If for any reason You know, the government cannot protect the people and then cannot keep like the monopoly of violence, you know. Sometimes the weapons that all these criminals are brandishing is even more than what our own security agents are going about with. So the people are taking note, you know, what has the government done to stop things like this? If, for instance, a criminal should tell you today that whoever fails to do certain things, you know, will have himself to blame. And then tomorrow he carries out the threat. And then there is no there is no government agency to protect you. What do? You will have to dance to their tunes because you want to leave. And then the government has not been able to protect you, then there is nothing for you to do than to actually do exactly what all these criminals are asking you to do.
So Nasir, a lot of issues have been around lack of intelligence gathering. So from what you're saying, are you saying that is affecting it? Because if ordinary Nigerians who cohabit with these bandits cannot feel free to provide information, that could affect the level of intelligence gathering, right?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I don't think the problem has to do with only intelligence gathering because we know so much. The problem maybe is acting on the information that we have. Because believe me, there is no criminal hideout. There is no criminal places where all these crimes are taking place that are not known to our security agents. They know the place. Like if you go to places like Kaduna, there are so many. They will tell you that, okay, if you go to so places, all the criminals are always there. And sometimes you see all the security agents going there because maybe it's a drinking joint where they, you know, mess themselves up and they're always with them. So the information that they are getting, you know, it's making nonsense of all the information that we have at our disposal.
All right. Well, it's quite, you know, a pathetic one, especially when you see, you know, the attacks, you know, taking different dimensions. The son of the commissioner of internal security and home affairs in Zamfara was killed, and 3 others. We have, you know, terrorists, you know, killed 17, abduct several others in Kaduna local government area. So, and when you match that with the visit of the Inspector General of Police, you know, just less than 24 hours earlier, and then the directives that he gave, you know, you wonder whether, you know, government, the people in authority, whether their words, you know, carry some kind of power, or whether or not people should have some kind of confidence in whatever they hear, you know, from people in government.
Actually, some will say that was misleading for the IGP to tell the whole world that things are back to normal, that you can like take the road, nothing will happen and things like that. But then on the other hand, the particular story where it said an attack took place in one Anguan Maje or so, actually people don't consider that to be part of the Kaduna-Abuja highway. Not that it's not on that route, but what people consider the Abuja-Kaduna highway mostly starts from Jere down to probably even Gwenungora, you know, just like the Kaduna-Abuja bypass. That's if you are coming from Kaduna State. But, and that's where most of the attacks actually take place between, you know, you have, there is a place close to Olam, they call it Dutse. After there is places like Kasarami, there is Polwaya, there is Katari, there is Akilbu, there is Kurmankare. So many places, you know, where attacks actually take place. But from Jere to Zuba, or if you are taking the Buari route, that one is not as dangerous as the one that I just mentioned. Because from Jere to actually Tafa, that's Sabon Muse local government in Niger State, you have more than 4 communities major communities between Jere, which is like a town in Kagaruku local government area of Kaduna State, to Sabon Wuse in Niger State. So some may say the IG is right for the fact that between Jere and Kaduna, you know, well, you see there is some visibility, you know, of security agents and what have you. But from Jere to Zuba and then maybe to Rubwari, that's a different thing altogether, because they hardly have attacks the way the rest of the road.
Well, Nasir, the fact that they struck barely 24 hours after he went there and made that statement, doesn't that count for anything?
No, it does, of course. But what I'm trying to say is the fact that if you ask like commercial drivers, you know, they will tell you once you leave Jere, that's if you're coming to Abuja, then it's like you are safe.
You're safe.
You know, but between starting the journey from Kaduna to Jere, anything can happen because there are so many.
With all of this, it doesn't look like people are deterred, you know, from traveling. I mean, people must travel, isn't it?
Actually, it's because they don't have option.
When you go to the motor park, you still see people, you know, even as at the morning of the, you know, train attack, you know, when our correspondents went to the park, you still see people there, you know, traveling, you know, as usual. So, what should people be doing, you know?
Actually, it's because people have no option. You know, how many people can afford air travel? You know, if you are going by the train is no longer, has been suspended. So what do you do? And all this talk about Abuja-Kaduna train, of course, people are benefiting, but how many people are actually benefiting from it? Like the capacity of I think it's around 850 or so.
Yeah, but that's huge number.
It's
when you
huge.
consider
And
the fact that
It's
they
huge,
fly
but
that
do you know?
And they do several trips daily, right?
Yeah, they do.
you know,
They do
about how many
5
times?
trips,
About 8 times.
except on Wednesday. But see, if you look at the number of people coming into Abuja from Sokoto, from Zamfara, from Katsina, from Kano, from Bauchi, all the northwestern states are using the Abuja-Kaduna highway. So if all these people are to go with the train, do you think there will be space? No, it's impossible. If you know the number of the number of commercial vehicles that are coming from Sokoto, not just the state-owned transport authorities. No, I'm talking about commercial vehicles. Just go to Abuja-Kaduna highway and see. By the time something happens, just 10 minutes, if you see the number of cars that will be trapped, honestly, you will be. I don't even know how to put it, because once there is something on that road, just 5 minutes, and then you see like long queues of vehicles, because there are so many people that have no any other road to follow aside the Abuja-Kaduna highway.
I guess that underscores the importance of that road and the need to keep it safe.
Oh, yes.
All right. Well, well, that's that. I believe we've been able to touch at least the major stories, you know, on our front pages this morning. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing with us your perspectives on the stories here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I hope
Good
we
to
get
hear.
to see you soon.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now we will take a short breather, and then when we return, the discussion on the program will continue. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or
because I
regional.
have said that